Welcome to Pick Yourself Up. I am your host, as I have told. In this show, we invite individuals who have uplifting messages, empowering insights, and encouraging stories. You may be an immigrant, concerned or even worried about what's going on, or you lost your job and you may be unemployed, or you might have been experiencing setback after setback in your personal life, profession, and or in your business. This is your show. In this show, we invite policymakers, elected officials, activists, and also successful people in business, academics, art, sport, and so on, with the hope that their message, insights, and stories may inspire and equip you to pick yourself up and shine in life. Today we have that kind of person in our studio. His name is Tebabu Assefa. He is the co-founder of Blessed Coffee and U.S. Africa Diaspora Business Council. Tebabu, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story.
Yeah, exactly. So I know you personally. And you're very engaged in the U.S. political system. I met very few immigrant activists who understand the U.S. political system, the needs of different stakeholders. Not only you are engaged, you work hard to empower diaspora business people. So what drives you? What is your passion? What makes you get up every morning and do something to empower immigrants?
That's a very good question. That's a two-sided question. Let me answer the second first. What motivates me? I am an African American. I belong to two cultures. Africa is ancient, Africa is magical, Africa is rich in human and natural resources, and Africa is a cradle of civilization, ancient, old. America is vibrant. In fact, if you can combine two continents to show the pinnacle of life or the world existence in terms of political systems are the two: rich, vibrant, ancient, and young and vibrant and resources. I mean, the hopes of humanity, in fact, lies in that U.S. African identity. And because I belong to the two places, I see the disconnect. I see what's missing, and I see what I can do to especially as the first immigrant of the African origin. And so the possibility of reconciling the two. Usually when you come as an immigrant, you come to the U.S., you're supposed to reinvent yourself. You're supposed to forget your past. You're supposed to live by the new experiences. That is unfair. What about the network that you have? What about the wisdom that you have before you got to America? What about the experience that you have? What about the educational background that you have? The new life has to incorporate and build on that, as opposed to asking you to forget all about it and reinvent yourself again.
So you are a bridge builder.
I want to bridge that build, but building the bridge is for the common good, not necessarily for my. Because I would see the possibilities, and recalibrating and connecting and building the two bridges can have abundance public good, especially for communities that I live and get engaged on both sides of the
So
continent.
what you do benefits both the immigrant community and also the hosting community, Americans, and the American economy, socio-cultural.
Yes. In fact, if I could quickly interject a personal story, my educational background is film, communication, and studio arts. I went to Ethiopia. My initial ambition was to be an African storyteller, to bring light to the untold African stories. Because our story has been told by some other forces, and that story is marginalized, and it's done for different purposes. So first and foremost, I realized that Africans have to tell their authentic story to engage in this new engagement we call America. So when I went to Ethiopia, went to the coffee growing region, and I saw how hardworking small coffee farmers in the Garden of Eden, the coffee region is a wonderful place, working as a family, the father, the mother, the children, working 10, 12, 13 hours a day, and they can't eat three meals and drink a decent, clean water and send their kids to school. I quickly asked, how is that possible? How can you work so hard and can't afford the basic human necessities? So when I dived into the international economic system that brings resources, coffee from Africa to the US, I quickly saw the farmer does most of the work, for some cases like 90% of the input, and he only gets 1% of the money we pay on this side. And with that 1%, the life is not sustainable. Life cannot be sustained. He can't afford the basic. And then here, living here in America as a consumer, I also realized that me and my neighbors and my friends are also charged a exorbitant amount of money. And the people or the business entities that bring coffee to us would do 10% of the work and get 90% of the profit. I thought that was unfair, especially living here. And I gathered my friends, my wife and I, and wanted to create a business model that will connect the grower directly with the consumer and provide both the most important partners, the most important stakeholders in the transaction, an investment and profit-sharing partnership in the model. So that's what inspired what we're talking about today.
So you mentioned about your activist engagement in terms of having fair trade.
Okay.
And the Obama administration acknowledged your effort, and you were recognized as champion of change by the Obama administration. That's really a great achievement.
Yes.
A great recognition that inspires you, and also our audience when they see that someone, an immigrant, working hard and recognized as the champion of change. While we're talking about what you're doing to empower farmers back home and also creating that bridge between Africa and America, there is a concept that you talk about, the virtual exchange system, and you promoted, and actually you had congressional hearing about your initiative. Do you mind to talk about it?
That will give me an opportunity to answer the first question you asked.
Okay.
The activism, why being civically engaged and active in the American political process. We quickly realized what we're trying to do involves a lot of stakeholders, from government, policymakers, internet banks. This is international trade. There are a lot of actors. I thought it was only the consumer and the producer. So we had to engage them. So when we started engaging the policymakers, we learned how policy works in activism. Basically, the U.S. government system is based on citizens lobbying for a legislation that will advance their common cause, and the legislators taking that input and crafting a legislation that will allow the demand the people. So we quickly realized that, and we got very actively engaged. And then we also had to use the infrastructure, the business infrastructure. I mean, it's capitalism, but the only difference is the ultimate goal is to do good. So we leverage the power of business. We also had to study business and say, how can we make the business work? And lucky we were, at the time, the state of Maryland was crafting a business legislation that would allow social entrepreneurs to advance business to do the common good. It's a hybrid of non-profit for profit. It's called benefit corporation. And we were in the nation's second benefit corporation to be incorporated under that designation. And then at the end, our international market system that aspires to connect the farmer with the consumer, providing both an opportunity to own and share the profit, became an international trade by itself. So we had to coin it, and then we looked at other models. We took the fair trade model, changed the word to virtuous, the word fair to virtuous, changed the word trade to an exchange. So we came up beyond fair trade at the highest level, a business model we proudly call virtuous exchange. It aspires to connect the producer with the consumer. It aspires to give both an investment and ownership in the business itself. It aspires to leverage the power of business to advance the common good. And then quickly those immigrants from Africa, even Asia and Latin America, saw our model, and they were inspired to duplicate that in their own localities. So when the demand was so high, we took advantage, we seized the moment and created an organization we call U.S. Africa Diaspora Business Council that aims to inspire educate, inform, and support other social entrepreneurs, in our case from Africa, the African immigrants, to use this and create the power of business, make money while they make a difference on both communities where they live and where they come from.
So I know your focus is on U.S. Africa diaspora, but I believe that what you do can be translated or can be modeled by other communities from Asia, South America, and so on.
Very true.
And one thing that I see from your explanation is the power of engagement. Because now, not only you understand the system, you are engaging the system. One of the challenges that I have, and many immigrants, I believe, have, is to understand the system and engage, because we all have our own passion and cause. But if we don't know the system, if we don't engage, we don't achieve what we aspire to achieve. So I want you to share with me your experience. What are the results you've got because you are engaged with the policymakers, with other stakeholders?
Very true. I mean, it all dynamically evolved. So after I came back, my wife and I wanted to introduce this initiative. We quickly realized that we have to talk to our neighbors. So in order to talk to your neighbors, you have to be active in the community. You have to join, community PTA. You have to join many other local small community organizations. So, and then that gave us an opportunity to share our values and to put an input to our common existence. So through that, we built, as we explained what we were trying to do, as we told our stories, as we asked help for what we were trying to do, we started supporting others who were doing, there are a lot of community organizations engaged on so many levels, on so many issues. So we built grassroots connection. We call it social capital. We built our capital. And then we used that, we leveraged that to get the endorsement of the policymakers. And the policymakers saw the vision. The vision was beyond me, but the common good. Whenever you aspire to produce a common good, you can take that and say, here is what our common good. I bring this to this table. You ought to give me this. You can transact. It's a marketplace. So, and then the media will be interested in the story. So and then it will evolve. It will evolve and grow. And going back to the civic engagement, unfortunately, there's a cultural disconnect. In Africa, politics is a separate issue. People do their lives. They don't get engaged unless they're politicians. Sometimes they even fear to get involved in politics. And their social engagement is isolated from the overall. It's not intertwined. So when they come here, they stick to the making money and sending their kid to school and paying the bills. They don't see the value of engagement from the school as well as community, from participating on the local election, from voting. We'll start from voting and knowing who your elected officials are, and expressing your interest, expressing your concern, getting that dialogue, community dialogue, political discourse, holding a relationship with other like-minded, because it's all a holistic experience.
It's very interesting. I would like to continue to talk about that, to talk about the challenges immigrants have to engage and so on. But let's take a very quick break.
Okay.
Our viewers will be back soon. Stay tuned.
We just finished dinner and it was time for homework. He hates homework. I know he's bright.
Why is it so hard for me?
He's
I'm
just
trying
gotta
as
try a
hard
little
as
harder.
I can.
1 in 5 children struggle with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to understood.org.
Welcome back. You are watching Pick Yourself Up show. I am your host, Asagid Habtold. In this studio, we have Tebabu Assefa, who is the co-founder of Blessed Coffee and U.S. Africa Diaspora Business Council. Before the break, we were talking about his experience in engaging policymakers. So we're going to continue from there. Tebabu, you were talking about the experience you have had in terms of engaging policymakers, and we mentioned about the congressional hearing. I want to know, what is congressional hearing? What is the purpose? And what kind of experiences have you learned from that process?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That is one dynamic aspect of the U.S. government. The U.S. government is structured in such a way people send their representatives, and they will lobby the representative to write law that will benefit the people. Simply as simple as that. So now when we quickly realized the importance of our initiative, not only change the lives of the coffee farmers, also help other African immigrants, immigrants from Asia, immigrants from, we focus, this is a big issue, so we leave the rest to the other activists, but this model can be applied to any immigrant to connect to their country of origin by introducing our model.
And also, I think, to just interject, not only this initiative helps African immigrants, entrepreneurs, it also empowers and also benefits U.S. businesses that that have aspiration to invest in Africa.
That is very good, because the risk takers will be the immigrants. When U.S. businesses find a partner, they will be more encouraged and inclined, because the risk will be minimized. They will get amazing intelligence, and they will have local presence as well. You're right.
Yeah.
We also address us on a third level. So the importance of the congressional briefing is, first, you have to engage your policymaker, your representative, in this case the U.S. Congress, and present your model, convince your congressman this is not only for your interests, it's for the common good, and then you ask policy to support that initiative, to incorporate that initiative, and then also ask resources to be available to implement it. And currently there is an act called U.S. African Growth Opportunity Act, and we're presenting our initiative. We call it Benefit Cooperation for Africa Initiative as an agua pollinator. So we're asking our congressmen and other members of Congress to introduce an amendment to that existing act, so our initiative will be incorporated into that legislation, which will open a massive opportunity for other immigrants to follow suit.
Just to point out one thing, because my assumption is that you have experience in terms of how to have congressional hearing. My assumption is that many immigrant community leaders may not know. So my question is, what are the key factors? Now, from your explanation, it looks like you need to have an initiative, a proposal, and also you need to have the awareness about the existing policies and how your initiative fits into the existing policy, or you may come up with some policy suggestions too. So tell me a little bit about that, because there may be some leaders watching who want to learn how to really tap into congressional hearing, how to come up with initiatives and promote and advocate their own policies.
That's a good question. In fact, let's even bring it down to a local level. For instance, we live in Montgomery County. We have a representative, a councilman that we elect. It can be a road issue, it can be a simple issue that affects all of us in our county. You have the right to call your councilman and say, this issue needs to be addressed. You have the right to go sit at a meeting, a public hearing, and express that and push and lobby for that issue. You also have the right to bring your fellow neighbors to support you on the issue. So the citizens have so much right, from a simple local issue all the way to national issues, to galvanize support, to articulate their need. So policy makers are elected to serve that need. So my advice is, you're right, as an immigrant, we don't know that. And I think a matter of information, and I think our community organizations and our leaders have to pool resources and conduct workshops and training. Because functioning in America for growth without being aware of all these realities will be difficult.
An
uphill battle. And then your imagination also will empower you.
Yeah.
You can see your ability to contribute beyond yourself. So it's a very important engagement.
I think when you want to have congressional hearing, I heard from you that you need to have a sponsor.
Yes.
A congressman.
Yeah, congressman. Your congressman has to, at that congressional hearing, you invite the relevant committees related to your issue that you're trying to advance. You invite other stakeholders related to the issue that you advance. You invite other media companies who are capable of spreading the news. So you're really lobbying the machinery of public government. So and the staffers who work for the committees that you want to attract in support of your initiative. And that's the first initiative that you put in place. And then you have to continue lobbying, you have to continue pushing, you have to continue engaging all the relevant members of Congress and committees to finally get that piece of legislation in place.
I want to emphasize one thing. Last time I was interviewing a council member, and we were talking about policy issues. Yes, council members and also the county executive, they may try their best to come up with some policies. They may do their best, but without active engagement of immigrants, active engagement of the populace, it's very hard to succeed, because the immigrant community need to engage. But there are some challenges. What do you think are the challenges that are preventing the immigrant community to engage?
You know, it's I heard this expression once. They say, if you're not at the table, you will be on the menu. Meaning, if you're not actively advocating for your public good, there are other conflicting forces. There's a private and public engagement. We have a lot of lobbyists who advance a special interest group, not necessarily in line with the public interest at times. So, as an immigrant as well as a member of the larger community, we have, first and foremost, we have to connect. We have to make time to know who are active in our community, what kind of issues are being advanced in our community, what is that we can do. It could be a school issue. You know, there are a lot of, if you look where you live in your neighborhoods, there are a lot of small community initiatives. You have to join, you have to learn, and through that engagement, you would learn how you can contribute. But there is a role for leaders, for those who, the community activists or community leaders. They have to put programs and workshops in place to enlighten and educate the community to be active.
You have been engaging in the political system of the U.S. for more than a decade. I just want to ask you, compared to in the past, do you think now engaging in the political system and do activism is challenging because of the political system, the atmosphere? Do you think it's going to be challenging?
Well, two things are lining up. First, Africans are the recent immigrants. We are the first generation. We're living as we learn the system. And I see progress. I see engagement. In fact, I see a number of Africans running for office now. In fact, last week I was in Minneapolis. I had an opportunity to meet with a Somali representative of the House of Delegates and the General Assembly. And so that is us knowing the importance, learning. And the current hot political environment also makes it very, very, very
inspire
urgent.
Many people.
Very urgent, because now it's coming. For instance, the other day our president said a name that is not really, I don't know what the word.
Some African countries.
Yes, I don't want to say the word. So I looked at it, and I didn't get offended, because I quickly realized that our president is not aware of the magic of Africa, the importance of Africa, the role we African immigrants are playing in contributing to our local economy and culture. And quickly I realized it is the opportunities. I looked at it as an opportunity, and I said, well, maybe I have to step up my effort to show my neighbors, to tell my policymakers what I and my community are contributing, and then even the administration itself. Because I want to make America great because I live in it. But I don't want to make America great by dismissing the greatness of the continent I come from. In fact, recognizing the greatness of Africa is contributing to the greatness of America.
Yeah, but by the way, I want to give you a statistics. You already know that. Close to 48%, close to 50% of African immigrants, they are college graduates.
Yes, more than the American statistics. It's higher on.
And the local African community, they are vibrantly engaged in the socio-economic and cultural vibrancy of the American community. They are playing key roles. And not just the African immigrants, but in general, I think there is a misunderstanding about immigration and immigrants, because think about this. The United States is a superpower country. One of her competitive advantage is because of her ability to attract diverse talents from diverse cultures. This is a country built by immigrants. It doesn't matter, who came first. So the moment America despises, the administration despises immigrants, America is losing one of her competitive advantage, which means America is not benefiting from this environment at all, because when you undermine part of your community, immigrants, people are not attracted to come here. Even the people who come here, they may not engage and do for common good. So I think it's as a disadvantage. But to move forward, since we have like 3 minutes, let's talk about how can the immigrant community, for example, empower themselves. Okay. Organizationally, leadership-wise. Do you have some quick suggestions?
Yeah, quick suggestions I do for Africans. But to reinforce the statement that you made, recently I saw some statistics. From the Fortune 500 companies, 40% of them are conceived and produced by immigrants. You can just quickly take 2 examples. Apple, Steve Jobs' father is from Syria. Tesla from South Africa. Satellite radio here in Silver Spring, an Ethiopian innovator who came up with the idea of satellite radio. Today, in our cars, we listen to XM. That was envisioned by an African. So, America's greatness is made by the vibrancy of the many immigrants come to this place. So that is very, very, very important. And Americans not recognizing that element is undermining the greatness of America. Saying that, I'm going to give you the advice. The advice is, I started with the African dream, being an African. My advice to Africans as they make home is not to denounce their background, not to dismiss what they've done back home, not to discard their contacts back home. And in their imagination, and when they want to create a job, for instance, an African has a choice to get a job or create a job. You can go for a $50,000, $100,000 a year job, or you can say, how about if I sell African hot paper? How can I develop it? How can I market it and create wealth? You can you can connect with the African producers. I'll give you a very good example. The hot sauce that you find in every Chinese restaurant, sriracha, is created. It's $1 billion market. It was created by a Vietnamese immigrant who came to the U.S. in the mid-'80s. And it was some hot sauce that he liked. His friends liked it. And he developed it. Today it's $1 billion market. So my final thought is for Africans to think big, to expand their imagination, and incorporate their whole holistic aspect as they try to make their
Okay, Tebabu, I know we are running out of time. How can people reach out to you?
They can reach out to me through your program, but if they want to directly contact me, they can visit my website. My website is www.usadbc.org. It's abbreviation for U.S. Africa Diaspora Business Council.
So they could get the contact information.
They can get the information there. They can learn about what we do, current activities, upcoming events.
Okay. On behalf of our viewers, thank you very much for coming and sharing your rich experience as an activist and also entrepreneur. I appreciate for your time and everything that you gave us within a short period of time. Our viewers, I hope that you enjoyed our conversation. Until I see you next time, have a wonderful time. Thank you very much for watching.